Hello everybody. Do you know, I'm always doing that, aren't I? Play away my harmonica while I wait for my computer to warm up. So I'm still playing away, and here you are saying, well, where's our story? Well, here I am, and I'm going to read you today the story of Mr. Jelly. So, Mr. Jelly, what colour is Mr. Jelly? That's not one we've done very often. I'm not sure I've ever read Mr. Jelly, so this is going to be a new story for me as well. And for those of you who can remember, well done. He's obviously a funny shape. Do you remember Mr. Messy? He was all sort of like a scribble shape, wasn't he? Well, Mr. Jelly, he's like a shaky, wobbly shape, but he's actually the same colour as Mr. Messy. So if you remember, Mr. Messy was pink, and so is Mr. Jelly. I'm not sure whether that appears pink to you. It's sort of a reddish sort of pink, isn't it? So this is the story of Mr. Jelly. And I have a suspicion that it doesn't take very much to make Mr. Jelly frightened. And he wobbles, I suspect. But we'll find out, shall we? That's the point of reading the story. So, if you're all comfortable, here we go. Oh, in fact, that's what it says here, look. Poor Mr. Jelly was frightened of everything and anything. At the slightest little thing he would quiver, he would tremble, and he would shake and turn to jelly. So it's not really surprising to find that Mr. Jelly lives as far away from anybody that he can find. In fact, and you can see here, he lives in the middle of a wood, as far away from anybody. And in fact, all the trees, they all look like Mr. Jelly, don't they? Sort of a funny, sort of wobbly shape. And most of them are a pink colour. This story begins one morning when Mr. Jelly was still asleep. It was a beautiful autumn morning. The sun was shining. The leaves on the trees had turned to a glorious red. So you can tell it's autumn, can't you? Because it's in autumn, all the trees start changing colour. And the leaves go reds and oranges and yellow. It's all very beautiful. And the wind stirred gently in the treetops. A single leaf fell gently from the tree right outside Mr. Jelly's house and quietly brushed against his bedroom window as it fell. Now, you know a leaf falling against a window makes hardly any noise at all, does it? But Mr. Jelly awoke with a start. What was that terrible noise? He cried. Oh, heavens, the house is falling down. Oh, disaster. It's an earthquake. It's a calamity. It's the end of the world. And he hid under his bedclothes, trembling with fright. After an hour, by which time he realised that his house wasn't falling down, and there wasn't an earthquake, and the world wasn't coming to an end, Mr. Jelly peeped out from under the bedclothes. Phew, he said. Thank goodness for that. And he got up and went downstairs to make his breakfast. And there is actually a picture of him when he was hiding under his duvet. Mr. Jelly poured some cornflakes out of a packet into a bowl. Then he poured some milk onto the cornflakes. And then he went to the cupboard to get some sugar. Crackle, crackle went the cornflakes in the milk. That makes them sound more like Rice Krispies, doesn't it? They're the ones that go crackle and pop. Oh, goodness gracious me, cried Mr. Jelly, diving under the kitchen table. Oh dear, I hear guns. Oh, calamity, it's war. But of course it wasn't. And of course Mr. Jelly eventually came out from under the table and ate up all the cornflakes. He must have cornflakes quite often, don't you think? Anyway, after breakfast, Mr. Jelly thought that he'd go for a walk. He was walking through the woods which surround his house when a worm poked his head out of the ground. And all the Mr. Men stories, have you noticed the worms can talk? Morning, said the worm cheerfully to Mr. Jelly. Mr. Jelly nearly jumped out of his skin. What? Who's there then? Then he saw, oh, good heavens, it's a snake. Oh, a man-eating snake. Oh, calamity, I'm going to be eaten alive. And he jumped up into the tree. Oh, what a performance, commented the worm, and went back into his hole. And there is a close-up of the worm. Of course, he's much smaller than that, isn't he? That's just showing his head coming out of the hole. After about, an hour, Mr. Jelly felt brave enough to climb down from the tree and continue his walk. And there you can see him peeping out from behind the tree. I'll make a bit closer look. You can just see him peeping out from behind the tree because he's a bit frightened of everything. Eventually he came out and off he went across the wood and into a field. Mr. Jelly glanced nervously around. It was an empty field. Or was it? There'd been bull in it, wasn't there? But not if it was empty. If it was an empty field, you'd be right, wouldn't you? In the long grass in the middle of the field, unseen by Mr. Jelly, there was a tramp enjoying a sleep in the autumn sunshine. You can see him, look, with the grass all around him. So a tramp is somebody who decides they're going to live outside. So it's a bit different to people who are homeless. It's more somebody who wants to live and walk around the countryside and visit farms, and he does jobs occasionally to help out and so on. Mr. Jelly picked his way cautiously through the grass. The tramp, fast asleep, snored. Ah! What was that? Shrieked Mr. Jelly. It's a lion! I heard it growl. Oh, goodness gracious, so dear me. A lion, a huge lion with enormous teeth. A huge lion with sharp teeth is going to bite me in two. Oh, a huge ferocious lion with enormous sharp teeth is going to bite me in two, if not three. And he fainted. And there he is, look, in a big jelly shape, collapsed on the ground. All this commotion awakened the tramp, who yawned, stretched, sat up and saw Mr. Jelly lying on the ground beside him. There you can see him, look. He's obviously Mr. Jelly's quite small. Most of the Mr. Men are quite small, aren't they? Oh dear, he said, for he was a kindly tramp. Oh dear. And he picked up Mr. Jelly and placed him gently in the palm of his hand. Mr. Jelly came to and sat up, rubbing his eyes. Well, you can imagine how he's going to react now, can't you? Then he saw the tramp's face. Look at him. Oh, disaster! His own calamity's a giant, an ogre, a Joe. Oh, good gracious, he's going to have me for breakfast. My, said the tramp gently. You're a nervous little chap, aren't you? What's your name? Mr. Jelly, stammered Mr. Jelly. Do you know, I used to be nervous like you, said the tramp, but I learned how not to be. Would you like me to tell you the secret? Mr. Jelly quivered and shook and said, yes, please. It's very simple, continued the tramp. All you have to do is count up to 10, and you'll find that whatever is frightening you isn't quite so frightening after all. And then he set Mr. Jelly gently down on the grass. Remember, he said to Mr. Jelly, count to 10, and off he went. Mr. Jelly thought it would be a very good idea if he went home immediately, because he's had a very scary walk, hasn't he? Back across the field he went, back through the woods he went. He was walking through the woods when he stepped on a little twig. Snap went the twig, and Mr. Jelly jumped twice his own height in terror. And there he is, look, and you can see him, and he's looking a very serious, jelly, shaky shape. What was that? That terrible snapping noise. It's a tree falling. It's going to crush me to pieces. Oh, calamity. It's a crocodile hiding in the bushes, snapping his teeth. Oh, disaster. And then he stopped. He took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, he said. And he saw that what had gone snap was a twig. A silly old twig. Phew, he said. Can you count to 10 that quickly? That's quite really fast, isn't it? I know you can all count to 10 because we've done that a lot when I've seen you in school. Well, what do you think about 10? Really quick. You can practice, can you? The quicker you get. I'll tell you what's really hard is going 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Try and do that really quickly, which is counting to 10 backwards, isn't it? Mr. Jelly had almost reached his house when a leaf drifted gently down from a tree on top of him. Oh, help, policeman! I'm being kidnapped. Oh, calamities, ruffians with guns. They're going to... And then he stopped. He took a deep breath. What do you think about this matter? Then he saw what had fallen on him was only a leaf. Nothing but a leaf. A stupid red leaf. It works, he said out loud in wonderment. And there you can see, for the first time, Mr. Jelly is actually smiling. So that's how he was at the beginning, wasn't it, on the front of the book? And that's how he is when he realises that he doesn't have to be frightened of everything. And do you know, it did work. After that moment, Mr. Jelly became a changed man. Well, you can see that by the look of him. Look, there he is, sitting in his armchair, looking comfortable and relaxed. And he never shrieks, or shouts, or screams, or quivers, or shakes, or trembles anymore. And he never hides under the bedclothes anymore. Well, not very often anyway. That's a good story, isn't it? And I think there's a lot of truth in that, because it's very easy to be frightened of something. I don't know, we might see a spider, for example. Now, spiders in this country, spiders are not frightening. They don't do you any harm at all. And if you look at a spider closely, like when a spider is on its web, it is beautiful. They have lovely marks. But it's easy, particularly when one runs across our foot, to go, ah, spider! But actually, if you stop and go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then have a look, the spider will have gone probably, and it'll just be there, and it won't have done you any harm at all. And there's lots of things like that in life. Just have a little count, take a deep breath, and think, is it scary? No, it isn't. So there's, like all the Mr. Men books, there's some good advice in there. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll do a little Miss story next time. I don't know which one it is yet, so I have to think about that. So we'll do that very soon. Be happy, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.